Hey guys, welcome to the Snapthis channel. My name is Kyle Lightning and today we are going to be creating probably the most popular easy lens to do on Lens Studio, which is a 2D lens. And the reason why it's so popular, because it's simple and it allows you to take one image, which could be a PNG, maybe it's your logo, maybe it's a picture or a piece of art that you've drawn and you want to implement that into a Snapchat lens. This is how you're going to do it. And this is good for corporate events, it's good for making a lens for a friend or a joke or something like that. So that's why it's something that I think is going to be very popular. And there is no skill to making this lens. The only thing you really need is some assets like the logo or an image cutout, which we're going to be doing in today's one. This lens here, Who Filmed That, is my most popular cutout lens, and we're going to make a similar style today in my channel branding. And if I just open up Photoshop here, you can see I've already created the branding in a iPhone layout, so we know it's going to fit basically. So basically prepping your media is going to be harder than making the lens. If of course you're new to Lens Studio, the previous video has more step-by-step on the panels, but you will be able to follow today's tutorial with no problem if you've never even used Lens Studio before. And I might go over some of the details again, but I'm going to try and keep this one nice and quick because it is a lens that normally would take me probably about 5 minutes to put together. It would actually take me longer to do the lens icon normally because it's so simple. And as I've mentioned in previous videos, please check out the templates that the lens team have put in because they do help you sort of understand lenses and how they're built. And of course there is a ton of documentation provided by the lens team. I don't work for Snapchat, but I am part of the lens network, so it is important for me to sort of get the message out there because as a lens creator, it's an amazing space. If you are someone who's into modeling or artwork or anything, this is a great place to make stuff. There will be markers in the video, so you can skip ahead because there is going to be two lenses in this video. I'm only going to make it as one, but there's the importing a logo on top of the camera and then there's the cutout. So we're going to start off with the logo, but if you want to see how to do the cutout, just follow the markers down below and you'll be able to skip ahead. So we're going to start a new project in Lens Studio, and it's basically going to give us the blank canvas. The first thing I'm going to do while it's loading is just prepare my media, which of course are my logos. So I'm just going to pull that over to here and just import those across. So I've got my logo here and I've got my template. The big things for this is making sure, one, they're transparent. We can use JPEGs, but of course if you've got transparent sections, that's not going to work. So the PNG is our transparent format, and you can see that because the grid on the preview, and I've just clicked on the image to see the preview of it, and you can see down here that the transparent parts are transparent. And as I said in my Photoshop file, you can see that we've got the transparent effect there as well, so you know that the image is transparent. And the same with the logo. These have to be a certain file size, but I've never really come across any problems since they updated Lens Studio to have 8 megabytes memory instead of 4. But if you were worrying when you're putting the images in, if you click onto performance, you'll be able to see the size of the image. If you start getting close to the 8 megabytes part, that's when you're going to start noticing some performance issues, especially if they're in a 3D space, which we'd have to worry about. So let's get started and put our logo basically onto the Snapchat lens. Let's get it started. So we're going to go to objects. Firstly, you're going to notice we are in the 3D space. We're only going to be working in 2D today, but we don't have to worry about that because as soon as we go to plus and go to screen image and we give that a click, you will see it then creates as a 2D orthographic camera. I can view it in 3D space, and if I come over here you can see it. But we only need to work in 2D today. Now for some reason it's defaulting as the square, which is very weird. I'm just going to change this to the iPhone 8 so you can sort of see the window. This is how we sort of put our logos in the right place. I've just switched it back to iPhone 14 for now because that is the latest and greatest iPhone currently in November 2023. So I'm going to work to that because the majority of people nowadays aren't going to be buying the older phones. So I tend to work to the latest phones because the orientation and the sizing doesn't really change anyway. So if you've got an iPhone 14, it's going to be the same resolution as the 11 and the 12 and the 13, so you don't have to worry too much. So we've got the screen image in anyway. So this is our screen image. You can see it's got the default icon or the default image to Lens Studio. We basically just need to assign our image to that. And it is as simple as either clicking texture over here Or if you're a bit like me and you prefer a drag and drop, you just drag and drop your asset to that texture box. And something just to note, you see the icon here and the icon there. If you marry the icons up, you know it's going to work. The one above it is a material that's more like a mesh or a 3D modeling thing, but we just want to take this 2D asset. I'm going to do the drag and drop and just drop it into there. And you can see that my logo has now appeared onto the preview. I can move this around. The first thing I'm going to do is basically just make it to the size of the logo. This is just my sort of good practice. Now obviously it is shrinking down, and that's because of the stretch mode. If I go to fill, you can sort of see now, you can sort of stretch it and do it however you like. And then basically it's just as simple as putting it in the position you want it to. Now you can see that green line, that's just a grid snap. There's also one horizontally as well and vertically, so you can sort of get it smack bang in the middle. For this, being mindful of how it's going to look, obviously this is the carousel, which is when you're choosing the lens, but obviously most of this disappears. For me, I'm going to put it in the top. Oh, I've just squished it, that's not good. I'm going to put this in the top left, and then as a lens, I can send this to my phone. Obviously I can't because my phone is the webcam today, but I could then test this out and I'd be able to see where it is. And that is basically how you put a 2D image on the lens, and that's what I mean, it is a super simple lens. I'm going to leave that there because I'm going to move into now the cutout lens, which is for me more fun. I love the cutout lenses. So what I'm going to do is basically click on the full frame region because I don't really want to leave this space. You can, but I don't want to. And I'm just going to do another screen image. Sometimes it might create another region. Doesn't cause any problems, but I just find it's better practice to have them all in here. And one thing, oops, I've just zoomed in. One thing that I was taught by Phil Walton is having good naming conventions or just naming stuff is just easy on the eyes. If you're building a complex lens, you want to name them so you can basically see what layers of what and basically how to, what is what. It's very important. So I'm just going to do that because when I come to like moving things around, it's a lot easier to see. If you do lose your camera like I did, I just double clicked the image I want to work with and then it took me straight back and I just zoomed out. So there is a hand tool on the program, but I'm just going to keep it nice and simple and get back to the middle. So my logo is still here. What I'm going to do now is click on the cutout and you can see it's got that default image again. This time instead of dragging and dropping, I'm going to click on the texture and just select the lens template and you will see that it is now applied. Now due to the layering, that's why my logo has disappeared. And if I just drag it above, you'll see the logo reappears. And that's why naming them is quite important because then you can see what's on top of each other. We want the cutout behind and then you can see the layering numbers there. There is actually more of an in-depth layering system built into Lens Studio, but we're not going to cover that in today's video. That is again more for like the 3D stuff though. We're okay with this today because we're just putting logos on top of logos. Now you may see there's a little bit of a problem with the cutouts. I designed this around an After Effects a Photoshop file. I actually don't think that is the exact one I needed. I actually made a wider one, but I'm glad this has happened because I can fix that. Now, most of the time I would fix it in my Photoshop file, I'd just make it wider, but you can, for the sake of this, just to go fill width. So again, I just clicked on cutout and I've come down to stretch mode and I'm going to go to fill width. And as long as it doesn't skew my image, I'm happy with that. And look how it's above the carousel as well. So I'm not making sure that nothing's getting covered. My logo now seems to be a little bit too big. And that is just simply resizing it, and I'm just going to slap this back up into the top. I've just moved the anchor point, but yeah, that's like the important bit though, is just making sure that your image does fill. There are different options as well, so you can fill height. I always do fill width because I find it doesn't skew it too much. Stretch, that skewed it too much. I just want to fill width. You can also do fill and cut as well, but I don't find that one works as well in certain arrangements. Once you've made the lens, you might think that you're actually complete here, but one thing I would recommend, obviously this is the iPhone 14, but I always check it on the 8 just to see how it's going to look, and that works fine. My logo is covered at the moment, but as soon as they start recording, it will start working, and you can make minor adjustments like what I've done here, and it shouldn't make too much effect on the iPhone 14 one. But again, this is where I tend to typically make them for more than modern phones, just knowing where the technology is going. And obviously the iPhone 8 is a phone that has a chin and a forehead, which means it's not a full screen phone. And you can check for Android phones as well, but obviously with the majority of Snapchat users mainly being, I'm going to be told off for saying this, but on iPhone, I know it's more popular on there. But again, with Android having so many different versions of phones and different layouts and sizes, it's harder to make Snapchat lenses to please all. So I typically just make them to the iPhone 14, and they transition over to Android pretty well from this. But this is where testing it with this drop down here does help. And you can obviously change it to the different screens, so that's what it's going to look like when you're sending the Snapchat. But I just leave it on the carousel because I think that's the really important one, is basically making sure that nothing is covered. And then it is as simple as just publishing it. As long as it meets the guidance and you're not putting other logos in that you don't own the rights to. So if you were to stick a Pepsi logo on there, your lens might be taken down due to not having the copyright. Again, that is down to the filtering system when you publish the lens. Obviously, I'm not going to have any problems with my own logo, and I can obviously speak to the lens team to sort of say, hang on, this is my logo, this is what I want to do. So just make sure that you're within the community guidance, because obviously if you break any of those, the lens will not be publishable. But it is as simple as going into project info, just checking that this is all correct, and then you can then publish the lens. I'm going to send this to test, and this is what the lens looked like in the end. So this is the final product. I can zoom in and out on the camera, as you can see, and it makes no difference to the screen image. And that's the difference between, if I go here, the screen image, which is placed on top of the camera, in comparison to image object, which is going to put it into a 3D space, which when I do zoom would make a difference. But so there we have it. That is the short and sweet lens tutorial on how to make a 2D lens. This, of course, is a very basic but important fundamental to learn on Lens Studio, because this is a very important one for 2D. You can't do anything else without these skills. Obviously, we can make this lens a hell of a lot better by just adding some of the color corrections and post effects. Let's just get an analog TV, and you will see that it adds an effect on there. So you can do more around this and make that lens however you like. But for me, that's perfect. I've really enjoyed making this lens, and I hope that this tutorial helps. If, of course, you're new around here, my name is Carl Lightning. If you want to consider subscribing to support the channel, and leave us a like, and let us know down below, what lenses are you making, and what do you want to see next from from a tutorial for Lens Studio. I have got a background in 3D, but I'm more 2D, but I'm going to get us there. I just want to start off with more the simple lenses. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video.